Legendary Drops posted a video saying, I talked to Ubisoft devs. It's worse than we could imagine.
I had developers at Ubisoft reach out wanting to make sure that the right story is being told, and these guys are running out of time. While the company has been trying to put on a strong face, pretend like they have a plan moving forward, well, things internally have been falling apart faster and faster every single day, with many developers at the company now believing that this is just going to be the end of Ubisoft, and many of them are just preparing to leave. They've been telling me that there is new leadership that's being put in place that's completely unproven and never even worked on a game before. They've allegedly been lying about their entire plans to be able to save the company. Most of it's all just smoke and mirrors. They've been telling their employees to outright ignore player criticism because we don't know what we're talking about, apparently. And these guys still somehow believe that they are the king of open world games, at least in their eyes.
Do you notice just one thing? All the things that we've been saying is why these games are failing are the things Ubisoft is telling their employees to keep doing. Curious.
And they've even gone as far as to shut down any conversations at the company around Expedition 33 or Dispatch, games coming from former Ubisoft employees because, well, they don't, really match up with the direction that the company is going.
Which, by the way, what a slap in the face. Ubisoft, ex-Ubisoft devs leave, form their own companies, make incredible game experiences. One goes on to be game of the year. One of the best games I've ever played in Expedition 33. And then Dispatch was another banger of a game. So much fun. Played both of those to completion. Some of the best games I've played in years. Ubisoft lost that magic touch because they were so focused on pushing their DEI agenda and the wokeness in the company itself that they forgot about how to make a good game.
In. And also, those games are kind of flukes. Ubisoft isn't listening to reason. They're not listening to their players. They're not listening to their developers. Hell, they just recently fired one for speaking out online. And now the company is sitting at its lowest point in history. So we have the developers coming out to set the record straight. Today's video is sponsored by Displate, and this one is perfect timing. With Valentine's Day coming up, Displate's custom displays is one of the easiest gift ideas I have ever seen. You can upload your own image, your photos, artwork, memories, whatever you want, and apply some built-in filters to give it a clean, polished look without actually having to do any of the extra work yourself. They have a bunch of different filter styles, so whether you want something softer or more dramatic or just a nice version of an original photo, it can handle it for you.
Honestly, not terrible. As far as ads go.
For you. Upload the image, pick the filter, and Displate turns it into a high-quality metal poster.
They're super expensive, but cool.
If you've never used Displate before, they make premium metal posters. What am I talking about? We have talked about this 100 times. Why haven't you guys bought more of these things? There's no tools. There's no wall damage. They're super easy to hang up and swap out. It's just one of those things that just works, and it looks better than anything else you could be putting up on the wall.
Tainted Grail, Fall of Avalon sent me one. It's got the magnet. I still need to put it up. I need to find a place for it. And it came with this cool magnet too. Not the same company, but still. It's awesome. It looks badass. I need to put it up.
We've got over 1 million designs, so if you want to go custom, games, anime, movies, limited edition, texture prints. But for Valentine's Day, you want to get something special, something that really shines. So go ahead and use code LEGENDARY at checkout. Hit the link in the description and take a look. If you're stuck on what you want to get someone this year, this solves the problem pretty fast. Man, Ubisoft used to be that publisher. For the longest time, you didn't even question their releases because these guys just delivered. The 2000s to the early 2010s, it was a ridiculous run. Sands of Time, Splinter Cell, Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, Rainbow Six Vegas, Rayman Origins. Not all of these games were perfect, but man, these guys had a grip on the industry. Big franchises, real identity, and some real production value. Just solid games all around.
I can tell you straight up where it all went wrong with Ubisoft is they forgot how to connect with the gamers and what gamers actually wanted. They thought that they could tell you what you wanted to play as opposed to listening to what you wanted to play.
Then somewhere in the mid-2010s, the crack started to show, and it stopped just being Ubisoft jank in some of their games, and it started just becoming the entire product. Unity was a disaster. Watch Dogs felt like one of the first times that a ton of people got sold one thing and shipped another. That game did not look anything like its trailers. And yeah, these guys still had some wins in that period. You had Siege and Origins, Far Cry 5, Wildlands, The Division 2, but the rod was already spreading, more formula, more padding, more copy pasted open worlds full of a shitload of chores, and monetization creeping into everything until single player just barely even meant anything anymore. And that slow decay finally turned into what I view as now an active free fall. Years of fatigue caught up, and now it's just been miss after miss. Avatar, Skull and Bones, X-Defiant, Star Wars Outlaws.
But to be fair, Avatar was a miss, but it did have a pretty big leap when they put in the third person mode, camera mode. And then when the movie came out, like that game actually probably eventually broke even and made them their money back. Maybe, depending on what the deal was with the film and the licensing. But everything else, no.
Assassin's Creed Shadows came and went from conversation like it didn't even matter. And none of these games were small bets. These are massive projects, massive budgets, and they didn't pay off. Not a single one of them. Now it's studios being shuttered, layoffs at Massive in Stockholm, leadership shakeups, projects being canceled and delayed, Prince of Persia being one of them. And actually, in some of my conversations with the devs, they told me that they had heard internally that it was all tied up in this training setup with students in India for cheaper labor. And that game was basically so mismanaged that it just became completely unsalvageable. Now you have investors that are bailing out their stock.
So it aligns up with what people were alleging from the exterior about how the game was shipped to India and was being worked on by people who had no idea how to make a video game, but all in the name of saving a buck, thinking that they could just pass it off to India and have the game come back completed. What did we learn?
Has been in the dirt for years, and on the U.S. stock exchange, it's sitting at under $1. Everything for this company feels like it's getting worse day by day. So yeah, when I say that Ubisoft is out of time, guys, I am not saying that for the title. I am saying that because that's what it looks like from the outside, and apparently that's exactly what it looks like from the inside. Following the recent reports of Ubisoft developers updating their resumes while they're still employed, and also another developer that got fired for criticizing the company on LinkedIn,
which I covered that in a previous video, but could you imagine being an employee at this company right now? How miserable that would be. It's not just Ubisoft. I mean, Wildlight Entertainment with Highguard, everyone at Reloaded right now, like every one of these studios, it's such an unnerving feeling going in, knowing that your job could be ended any day and you have no backup plan. What a miserable work environment that's got to be. Oh, and don't even get me started on Bungie and Marathon right now.
I had both former and current Ubisoft developers reach out to me. Their identities will be kept secret for very obvious reasons, but they want people to understand what is actually going on inside the studio and where they think all of this is headed. First, I simply asked, how does it feel working there right now? And they answered, in one word, depressing. It feels like nothing can be done at our scale as employees, and the future looks even worse. I asked, do any of the developers see the light at the end of the tunnel, or do they just feel like they're on the Titanic at this point? They come back to me with, well, as far as I can see, there are three main views. One, I have a family, so I can't really move, so I just hope for the best. Two, I'm preparing my resume. And three, I'll probably just leave the industry. I then asked, with everything that's happening with the company, management, and the overall direction, do you guys feel like you're even making games for players anymore? They answered, most of the time, it's hard to tell. Many just started working like it's a 9 to 5.
Right there, that's where gaming went south. As soon as it turned into a job, you lost. You need to go in with the passion of, I can't wait to add more and do something to this. It's going to be so exciting. I can't wait to share this with people. Imagine working at Sandfall and you're working on Expedition 33 and you know you got something special. Even though I know afterwards they said, oh, they were surprised with the receipt. They knew that game was going to be different and special and really land. You never know for sure, obviously, because there's nothing guaranteed in gaming. But when you're working on the game, you know whether it's going to be something special or some generic garbage. When I was at Sony testing that Cash Guns Chaos game, I knew the game was not going to do great. I just knew it was a generic Smash TV clone of a game that was just like, it's okay, but there's nothing special about this. There's nothing that's going to make me want to buy a console for this. It was just a game. And all too often, these studios are turning into just game mills to just pump out as many games as possible instead of, what do we need to work on? What's a cool idea? What did we want to invent to present to the gaming industry that will be remembered for years to come? That generations will be talking about this game forever, as opposed to, hey, time to make Assassin's Creed 69. Let's make Far Cry 46. Let's go, guys. Let's just do whatever the fucking next one is on the list of this other game. Yay.
I responded, well, is that the overall feeling right now? Most people have just checked out. Where do you guys think this company is headed? They respond, I don't think it's everyone yet, but most people think that the direction is delusional and gripping to the hope of releasing a bestseller like Valhalla at its peak at the pandemic or a Fortnite-like live service. I think that while some don't really think about it, many think that we're just going to end up bought by Tencent for IPs. Well, I'm going to say is,
by the way, that is what's going to happen. Mark my words. This, if you do any research on how Tencent operates when they consume studios, is they take a little nibble and they're like, okay, yep, we're gonna take a little nibble. We're gonna wait for other parts to fall. We're already gonna have our claws in it, and we're gonna take another nibble and take some more of it, and we're gonna wait for more things to fall, and then we're just gonna take over the whole thing and get rid of the debt on your other end, and we're not gonna be in charge of that stuff. They've done that 1,000 times before. That's how they operate. So yes, Ubisoft, mark my words, eventually will be consumed by Tencent. If that doesn't happen, I'll be shocked.
It's no wonder that these developers feel defeated. They know the company is underperforming. They're watching studios get shut down, watching layoffs roll through, hearing more about right sizing and reorganizing like it's some sort of seasonal update for the company. You would think at some point these guys would see some real change, something that actually addresses why players have checked out, why we stopped buying their games, why their games pretty much across the board are underperforming. But instead, they have management that is clinging to the same idea over and over again, that they're somehow going to recreate the success of Valhalla, a game that blew up in a once.
Surprised it hasn't happened already. They're just waiting. They're biding their time. They can't just consume all of Ubisoft all at once, because financially that would be disastrous. Ubisoft is $2+ billion in debt right now. So what they did, creating the silo and the ship to push the series away from it, was genius, because they get the best properties and don't take on any of the debt. So they're just going to keep doing stuff like that and then leave Ubisoft itself burdened and saddled with all this debt with nothing to show for it. And they're doing it piece by piece, so that it's like boiling the frog. The investors can't do anything about it. They can't fight back, because by the time that they actually do, it's going to be too late. It's all going to be gone.
In a lifetime moment where the entire world was locked inside their house while also chasing the live service dragon, thinking that they're the ones that are going to be able to crack it, even though publisher after publisher has tried and gotten humiliated for it. And the crazy part is that we don't even have to guess if that's the mindset, because Ubisoft's CEO basically said that outright in their investor briefing. On one hand, the AAA industry has become persistently more selective and competitive, with rising development costs and greater challenges in creating brands. On the other hand, exceptional AAA games, when successful, have more financial potential than ever. In this context, today we are announcing a major reset build to create the conditions for...
I remember I made a video on this when this came out, and I was just like, this is them announcing that their company is going to fail. When you do something like this, chasing the money instead of chasing the good game, you will fail in the entertainment industry every single time.
A return to sustainable growth over time. We are transforming Ubisoft's operating model to produce exceptional quality games on two core pillars of our strategy: open world adventures and games as a service native experiences. I cannot believe that this is coming from the same company that wrote one of their villains saying, "Do you know the definition of insanity?" These guys are literally betting the house on doing the exact same thing that they've been doing for the past 10 years. Exceptional AAA games are successful and they have more financial potential than ever. Where? When? I haven't seen them. I don't think anybody else has, because the last 5 years have been completely dominated, not by exceptional AAA games. No, it's been smaller games, games that are actually focused, games that are actually finished, games made by people who actually know what they're doing.
Would it be a good thing or a bad thing if Tencent eventually bought Ubisoft? I honestly, this is going to be a ride the fence answer. It would be a thing, because here's the thing: Ubisoft is gone. It's lost. Like, they've been consumed by DEI, the woke mind virus. The agenda has destroyed the entire studio, permeated with the women's empowerment, the LGBT agenda pushing. It's too far gone. You cannot recover once you go that far down. Everyone working there is an ideologue. And the people that are still there are actively looking for other jobs. Well, I'd argue everyone's looking for other jobs these days, but they've probably been looking for other jobs for a long time, or they've mentally just converted because they don't want to fight against the tide, which you could argue is what people have said that's what Tencent does, is they import the DEI everywhere else to destroy companies and then bring them in on the cheap.
Doing. And even when you're making your point that, some of the biggest AAA games that are out there are some of the biggest AAA money printing moments. Okay, yeah, you have Diablo 4. That's probably the only example that you're going to be able to use here. And look where that game ended up. Meanwhile, Baldur's Gate 3, for all intents and purposes, that was definitely a AAA sized cultural event, but it was something that was built closer to a AA budget, single player, no microtransactions. Hell, even the developers are so anti that stuff that they put it in their damn FAQ. So how do you hear players that have been complaining for years about bloated open world games, about monetization that's infecting everything, about live service elements that are being folded into games that they have no business being there, and then go and look at the graveyard of failed live service launches with a couple of outliers and think that you guys are the ones that are headed in the right direction? What is wrong with this company? Yep. So I ended up asking the developers directly, are they just flat out ignoring player feedback? What has been their thoughts on how low players think of them? They responded, they are completely ignoring feedback.
Wow.
They think that the silent majority will keep buying games and microtransactions. The issue is with leadership that they still think that Ubisoft is leading the open world genre, so quality is never questioned despite the shortfalls of recent releases. I then asked, so
this tells you right here that management is completely out of touch with their own customers and they need a complete overhaul. But I'm already saying it's too late. And they know that. They're on the Titanic and it's starting to go up into the sky right now just to break in half and fall.
Management is flat out not learning their lessons and ignoring players and the teams. They responded, higher ups, yes. Lower management usually want to do something, but are powerless. Mm-hmm. I hate how vindicating it is to hear something like that. Yeah, it definitely makes me feel justified. I'm sure it makes a lot of you guys feel justified too, but I can't imagine how miserable it must be to work inside of a company where you actually want to do something different. You have people that are there that want to fix it, who can see the problems clearly, but they get stonewalled by leadership that pretends like nothing is wrong, tells them to ignore feedback, and just keeps forcing everything in the same direction. Now, I'm sure some of you guys are going to say, just leave. Well, some of these developers are, but it's not that simple. It's not like you have studios around every single corner for these guys to be able to hop to, especially when you got a family, mortgages, visa situations, or whatever else. So what happens instead is exactly what these guys told me. It just turns into a 9 to 5. People check out. They just do what they're told. They just put their head down, hope everything turns out all right.
Also, what about, I don't know about how green cards work in Canada, or importing people from other countries for cheaper prices, things like that. But if they have any situations like that going on, people can't just quit. You have to work there. You're locked to the company.
Right? They ride it out and hope that some other company is going to come in and buy them before it all collapses on top of them. I think this is how we're getting a lot of what we're seeing from AAA right now. Games that are launching painfully off the mark, projects that feel like they're wearing the skin of older franchises without any of the soul, and design decisions that feel like they came straight out of a meeting because none of these games are actually being made by the people who work there. They're being made by the people who are telling them what to do. And most of the people that want to try to do anything have already checked out. Yeah. I've spent a lot of time talking to AAA developers, and I'm going to tell you guys right now, this is a problem that these guys run into all the time. They hear the players. They know what we're complaining about. They know that they can fix it. They see the way to be able to fix it. They want to fix it, but management steps in the way every single time. These guys want to fix mechanics. They want to fix character designs, the direction of some of these games. Some of these guys are even pushing back.
Press X to doubt on they want to fix character designs. Come on. I would argue if they wanted to fix character designs, there'd be a lot more public turmoil, external facing on social media. We're not hearing any of that. None of them are agreeing or saying, yes, we need to, but we can't. There's none of that. It's very strange.
Against live service, but management says no. They say that we are wrong, that we're the ones that don't know what we want, and they do know what we want, and then they force these developers to just press ahead. I don't understand how you manage a company this poorly. How do you not listen to your customers? How do you not see these obvious mistakes?
My God says, Smash, bro, here in Canada, immigrants that are not Canadian citizens get 30% of their salary covered by the government and refuse to hire Canadians. That's why it's immigrants at all service jobs. My God, what a mess. What an absolute mess.
How do you not recognize that you have hit an iceberg? Some of these people have been working at this company forever. Some of the guys are the people that owned it and operated it and founded the company, and they still don't see any of this stuff. And, while I am all for Ubisoft cutting weight, I've talked about that a ton of times. They have way too many people that are working at that company. There's still over 17,000 people. None of these layoffs mean a thing if this company does not learn from any of its failures. And they're not. I mean, the CEO actually believes that the only reason that Star Wars Outlaws failed is because the Star Wars IP is bad.
Right.
Because nobody likes Star Wars anymore.
Well, this is the same people that were saying Assassin's Creed Shadows was a success because they piled the Assassin's Creed Shadows sales in with all the other Assassin's Creed games in the same quarter and said, yes, it's a success because Assassin's Creed as a brand is still selling.
Even though I'm pretty sure people really liked Andor, and there was a movie that came out that I think a lot of people like. I didn't get to watch it. I've been out of the whole Star Wars thing for a while. We also had Battlefront that saw a massive resurgence of players.
And by the way, miss me with the whole Star Wars as an IP is why our game didn't sell. I remember when GoldenEye came out for N64, I didn't know much about Bond at all. I played it because my buddy brought it over my house and was like, hey, this is a cool game. Let's play it. I was hooked on it. I was like, this game is so good. It's amazing. It made me want to go see the movie. It made me want to watch it. And it made me want to learn more about the Bond in general, the entire series. It made me want to watch all the older Bond films. And then after that, watch the newer ones. So ironically, the game is what introduced me to the franchise. So miss me with the, Star Wars is dead. Make a game good enough to make people interested in the franchise. That's possible to do.
Just before the launch of Star Wars Outlaws. So how does that make sense? How delusional can you get? Well, apparently pretty damn delusional because it's going to get worse. Wait till you hear how these guys reacted to the success of Expedition 33 and how their solution to their overmanagement problem is more middle management. Over the past couple of months, Ubisoft has basically delivered nothing but bad news, but in the middle of that, they still took the time to hold an investor meeting for like the 5 investors that these guys still have left, giving their plans for 2026 and beyond. More cuts, more projects being shelved, and the big headline that they really wanted everybody to focus on was a complete restructuring, supposedly aimed at delivering higher quality games. They're carving the company up into 5 creative houses with Ubisoft HQ overseeing all of it, and they're selling this as a new era of speed and discipline, placing creative and financial accountability.
You know what I see when I see this? I see so much wasted money and so much overlap. And there's just way too many people at this company. How is this even a thing still? How are they spending this kind of money? Unless it gets found out years down the road that the Canadian government was funneling money into Ubisoft to keep them employed, to keep paying people and having a self-fulfilling prophecy of paying its own people with the tax money circulating. I don't understand outside of that how they're even in business right now. Like genuinely.
Closer to where value is created, simplifying the organization, better deploying resources, all the usual bullshit. So the obvious question is, what does this actually mean for the people that are making games? Because Ubisoft loves announcing plans, but they don't really like following through on a lot of things. What I want to know is whether or not this is actually going to make anything better. I asked the developers, I know that they had pivoted, reorganized, brought in some new leadership, but my biggest worry, and probably the same worry a lot of other players is having right now, is this company being run by people who actually know how games are made? Are you running into that kind of problem? They responded, there are several issues that plague the company. That pivot looks like fairy dust, to be honest. Most leadership was already there. We used to have zones a year or two before creative houses, which did nothing but create a new layer of management.
Wait, that's what I just said. They looked like they were doing like all the overlap. Like, oh God.
Some people at the head of the company that have been in game development at some point, but it's been years. The way that games are made now is different. I also heard that most of them are just yes men now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is where things are getting really good. So basically what they're saying is the restructuring is just a smokescreen. It's the same people, maybe a couple of new faces, but most of the leadership has been removed from the actual work for years, so many of them don't even understand how games are made today, which is making things even more difficult for the developers. They're essentially being given new management that hasn't worked on games in years or have never personally worked on a game before, all while the company is placing another layer of management on top of all of that to make things worse. Unable to believe what I was hearing, I asked them to clarify. Yeah, as I said, right now it's a bit chaotic. It feels not as planned as publicly showcased. Well, it wasn't really organized into creative houses, just there are now projects that belong into different ones within the organization in the same building. I responded, that seems wildly disorganized. So how many layers of management are there between the developer and the studio head? They came back with, depends on the game. On a mid-sized project where the whole team is in one studio, you could have 6 to 7 layers between developer and the studio head.
That's insane. That's insane. The most I have ever seen working in the game industry has been 4. And that's really pushing it. Like, that's CEO to the developer, 4. Like, I guess you want to push it like maybe 5. That's insane. 6 or 7 layers.
If it's a multi-studio collaboration, it gets worse. You can easily hit 10 or 11 layers because the team and even sometimes the directors sit under a studio lead, which has their own management chain under the game producer. I then asked them, is that
how do they even get a game made? I mean, I guess that explains Prince of Persia and how it didn't get made. But holy shit, I knew it was bad. That's infinitely worse than I thought.
That feels like a lot of layers of management. Doesn't that cause issues? No wonder developers don't feel heard. Nobody.
5, Bob. 5. That means when I make a mistake, I have 5 people come by my desk and tell me about it.
Can hear you. They responded, no, it causes a lot of issues. Meetings are bloated. Most people zone out. Information gets lost. People work on things that are not up to date. Work that is
not only that, the meetings. Oh my God. These meetings could be used to spend time making the game, but it's just useless meeting after useless meeting. The 5 levels of management above the people that you need to get to. Holy shit.
Already been done without consulting another team, needs to be redone or patched. Feedback arrives late or not at all. Fixes often get delayed and pushed as much as possible, rushed, or even put off until launch. Well, doesn't that explain all the issues that we see in games and why budgets have ballooned to hundreds of millions of dollars? When you have 7 layers of people between the ones doing the work and the ones that are steering the project, sometimes even 10 or 11, game development isn't even about making the game anymore. It's playing a game of telephone. You're just trying to push a message through a human maze. And by the time it reaches the other side, if it even does, it's going to be watered down, misunderstood, outdated, or it's just going to collide with something that another team already did. Yep. And that doesn't just explain bugs. That also explains the quality drop. The way that these franchises have slowly started to lose their identity.
And they do, was it Ubisoft? They have their own proprietary game engine that they use there, which, I mean, is great for them to save money on. But at least to me, when it comes to playing Ubisoft games over the past decade or so, they all feel very samey. And I don't know how else to explain it. And it's like not my style of game. And every single one feels like that style of game over and over again.
To wear the skin of what they used to be because nothing is getting through cleanly. Proposed changes, even simple ones, are going to take weeks.
So Snowdrop, their proprietary engine of Snowdrop, all these games feel the same with that. Is that just me? I don't know. It's very strange.
Months for these guys to be able to move on. And beyond that, it also applies to the soul of the project. How clearly can a vision come through when someone who is writing the dialogue, designing levels, or trying to shape the narrative has to pass everything through layers of Dante's Inferno just to try to get a straight answer? The only thing that's going to survive is going to be the simplest version of everything possible. Safe choices, repeatable formulas, stuff that is easy to justify and easy to track. The only thing that you're ever really going to see change, especially from Ubisoft titles, is going to be the monetization because, well, that's ironclad. That's a demand that's coming from the top with no mixed messaging. Also, probably a lot of stuff from their HR department, too.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't get how you look at the past couple of years and think that doubling down is the answer. The industry has been rewarding the opposite right now. Mm-hmm. Tighter teams, tighter scopes, lower budgets, games with real identity. And yeah, AAA is still going to hit sometimes, but the conversation keeps getting swallowed by stuff like Silksong or Schedule 1 or Expedition 33. How are you not going to learn from that? Which then reminded me, for how...
Well, the problem that I have with how you're going to learn with that is all they do is see it and say, let's just make the exact same thing. It's like, no, that's not what we mean by learn from it. Learn from it, meaning be unique. understand the needs of making something special and different. Not, oh, that's different, let's copy it and make it the same exact thing they did. Don't do that shit.
Big Expedition 33 got, even the French Prime Minister had shouted them out. Ubisoft was silent. So I asked the developers, what was the internal reaction to Sandfall's success, especially with former Ubisoft developers on that team, and did they learn anything from it? They responded, none, no reaction. They believe that Ubisoft isn't doing the same scale of game and that this team size isn't fit for a project that the company needs to make. As I said, they want to focus on live service and open world.
Well,
what
the fuck?
The fuck?
Nice.
I had to pry further. So they just brushed it off. No internal discussion. They come back saying many of the developers are players too, people that love the game, and they tried to bring it up to management saying, why don't we have projects like this? And they found 10 bullshit excuses to showcase how unrealistic it is and how we should ignore it in an internal Q&A. You know, the famous "it's an exception." Executives said there are tons of other indie games like this that fail. Can you guys imagine being in that building and
no, I can't. It doesn't matter the size of your team. This is proof of that. This is talent. Your ex-talent. These are people that were from your studio starting this studio. That's embarrassing.
That you go and you play Expedition 33, you're hyped for the people that used to sit a couple of desks away from you. You see the whole industry light up over it, and you're thinking, finally, we have proof of concept that the smaller, focused, actually creative approach can still work, and your own executives look you in the face and go, nah.
How many Office Space comparisons are we going to have during this?
What is wrong with these people? Not what we can learn, not why did this land, not how do we get some of that discipline back, just excuses, dismissal, a corporate coping mechanism. We don't make games like that. It's an exception. Indie games fail all the time. We do live service and open worlds. It's just so gross. It's not even a disagreement about taste. It's just an admission that their model matters more than their own craft does. The people inside are trying to do what they can, and they're trying to fix games and make them better, but the leadership is basically saying, sorry, that's not the business that we're in. I can't help but think that these guys, their executive staff, had to have just been so salty about Expedition 33. That game had lit up the entire industry. Everybody was talking about it. You have your own government talking about it. Yeah, I'd imagine these guys weren't very happy. I mean,
it won Game of the Year. For a quasi-indie studio to do that in the modern era of gaming is absurd. With all the agendas being pushed into the industry, and a game that doesn't push any agenda wins it? Absurd.
Every single headline, every video, every review made sure to make mention that a couple of their employees had slipped out the back and made a better game without them. I can't imagine that these guys took it all that well. Yep. They did the exact same thing with Dispatch. And you know what's really funny is that if I recall correctly, there were developers that came out and there were reports that were made that similar concepts were brought up to Ubisoft, but they had passed on it.
I heard this.
Imagine being that blind to the own talent in your studios, your own talent in your studios. Imagine being that blind to good ideas that you guys.
This is the people leading the studio aren't gamers. Maybe if you want to give them the credit, maybe at one time they were. Maybe it just passed them by and they think they understand what people want, and they've got completely co-opted with the DEI woke mind virus, and they're just trying to push the agenda beyond communism on everyone. But they are not in tune with what people actually want now.
I couldn't pick that stuff up. Imagine being so bitter that you can't even learn lessons from it. The CEO needs to resign. It's the only way that I see this company finding any success.
He's not going to, ever. He's just not. They created this. They make so much money from it. They don't care how much debt it goes into. They still pay themselves. Hell, they have a partnership with Tencent on a silo that they're still making money out of, separate from this. So if Ubisoft does go under, they still have money coming in from somewhere else. The Guillemonts are evil geniuses when it comes to business. They don't care about gaming. They care about money.
All of their bad decisions are coming from the top. I know in a lot of cases, people want to point out the developers, and in some case, it is the developers that are the problem. That's not saying that Ubisoft doesn't have any problem developers or any other parts of leadership.
They got a lot of them.
But a lot of this stuff is coming from the top. And it's obvious that they're just They're just ruining this entire company. I mean, I'm of the mind that the only reason that Tencent is investing as much money as they are is because they know they're investing into the Titanic, and they know that ship is going to sink right into their own pocket. They're just going to take all of the IP. And whether that actually means a better environment for the developers or them just shipping all those games off to be developed in China or something like that instead, I have no idea.
So that's what it means. Yep.
I will say this, and I don't say it very often, I feel bad for these developers. What a hellish and blind...
I don't like, I don't like, I genuinely don't. I'm sorry. I'm sure there are some very good developers at Ubisoft, but this is the bed you've made. This is the company you've been working at for how many years? I've seen Ubisoft going down this road for the past at least 5 years. So miss me with the, pity party for these good developers. Why are you still there? Why weren't you making a bigger deal about the problems you're going down? Why was this totally fine with you? Seeing them celebrate the Rainbow Pride parades and the LGBT and the girls' rights of hiring trans people. This was all happening there. And now somehow you're surprised that your company is falling apart? Miss me. I don't feel bad. Fries in the bag. Get out. You know what people that were talented did when they were at Ubisoft? They left. They started Sandfall Interactive, created Game of the Year because they knew they could do better. So again, it sucks, but welcome. That's show business, bro.
Environment to work in with no care for the art of game making and also no care for what the customers are asking them to make. Did you know that the hires that they made to fix Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and Rainbow Six for Vantage Studios is the CEO's son and his cousin? His son, by the way, his only experience is in NFT games and mobile games. So, that bodes well for those franchises. I'm sure
that, by the way, these are the people being put in charge of the studios telling them what to do. not the people that actually are in tune with the games that need to be made. So yes, it is destined to fail.
That's going to go just fine. It's one thing to be this ignorant when you're successful. It's an entirely different thing to be this ignorant when you are one of the biggest, scratch that, what were one of the biggest publishers in the games industry with some of the most...
I would say they were the biggest third-party publisher in gaming at one point. Ubisoft, maybe they were, right? Weren't they bigger than EA? At one point, they had to be. They had more employees. I guess it depends on how you define it, but...
recognized IP in the games industry, and now you're circling the drain. But for whatever reason, you will just not learn from any of your mistakes. They just don't exist. You have to ignore them. You tell your developers to ignore them when your developers are actively begging you, trying to fix things. They want to make better games. They want to be in smaller teams. They are telling you what the problems are, but you guys just won't listen to them.
Yep.
This is the reason why smaller studios do so well. It's because they have an easier time communicating with one another.
Well, and because typically they're more passionate. They want to make a mark for themselves. They don't have a cushy gig that's guaranteed. They have to drive for that.
An easier time keeping one cohesive creative vision. An easier time listening to the players. I don't see this company getting better. Especially with the way that they treat their developers, especially with the way they run their business. And if things don't change fast, they're going to be done sooner than we think. Anyway.
I mean, to push back on that, I'm surprised they're still around right now. So I'd argue they're done, but they're lasting a hell of a lot longer than we thought.
If you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did enjoy the video, like the video.
This was a great video by Legendary Drops. Really good channel. Most of you guys already know who this guy is, but he's been crushing it. And this was a banger video.
Subscribe to the channel. Make sure to share the video on social media. Share it with your friends. Share it all to everybody. Share it with your family. Watch it around the TV, whatever you guys want to do. Follow me on Twitch. Follow me on Twitter. I will catch you guys in the next one. Stay cool. Stay righteous. Stay safe. Peace.
All right. Shout out to Legendary Drops. That was a banger video. He did really good. And the only way to end that when it comes to Ubisoft is...